Yo-yo dieting is based on feel. It's where you'll be like, I'm dieting, so you start choosing slightly healthier options, wholemeal bread instead of white bread, and swapping that out as a suggestion. And then you're having like sandwiches instead of like the chicken nugget wrap or whatever you're making in the evening to try and make yourself feel better about yourself. Then you'll start to sneak in a little snack here and there. You go back the other way, your diet goes out the window, you're ordering 4 takeaways a week because you're too busy. Somebody's got a wedding in 4 weeks and they want to lose a stone.
Yeah.
They'll crash diet. The number may come down on the scales, but it's not body fat.
Yeah.
75% of it probably isn't body fat.
The nutrient absorption when it comes to vegan diets is nowhere near on the same level as animal proteins and animal nutrients.
My own experience with the vegan diet, like the one thing that I've personally struggled with is...
Welcome back to the PerformWell Podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're looking for performance and wellness optimization so that you can not only smash your career, but also have a better life, better relationships, and better health. We believe that performance and wellness are yin and yang and work together. So listen in as we dive into topics that are going to help you optimize your life for the better.
Top dieting strategies you've never heard of. Today, we're going to reel out dieting strategies that you have probably never heard of, or if you have heard of, we're going to try and dispel some of the bullshit around it.
Dieting strategies are a big thing in the industry. I think everyone loves to have this kind of connotation around a diet, and there are some that really do work. Like we use some with our clients. A lot of top performing coaches have their specific strategies that work into their programs, and I think it's time to unveil sometimes the blindfold that people have when it comes to a dieting strategy, because not all dieting strategy is going to work specifically for you, but some of the ones we'll speak about now might actually get you the result that you're looking for because it works into your lifestyle, and that's the key thing. A diet that works is a diet that works in people's lifestyle, not just because it's a
And one of them that doesn't work, which most people do, is the yo-yo diet. This is number one that I think is the biggest problem with people dieting, is that they yo-yo up and down like this all the time. And I would even argue that 9 times out of 10, these people do not have any structure when it comes to the diet. And that's the reason why they yo-yo up and down.
But then I think also at that point in time, what feeds into that is PTs and coaches feed off people who yo-yo diet.
Yeah.
They're the people that bring in income. So
We
it
make
just
money
makes them
off
yo-yo
them.
more.
Yeah, we make money off these people because they're the ones that need structure, and structure's easy. Once you've done structure, like as long as we have, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. And all these people need is some structure. Like, it's that simple. So what is the yo-yo diet then?
Yo-yo diet is when you kind of flip-flop between calories throughout the week.
Yeah.
So like, for example,
But this is normally not tracked either.
No, it's normally not tracked.
Yeah,
Normally it's based on feel.
Yeah,
I laugh
yeah.
at that because any kind of diet based on feel is not going to get you the result. I'll be brutally honest. Any diet based on how you feel things are going.
Unless you're genetically gifted, like myself when it comes to metabolism, and some people that I know, I can definitely eat based on feel and burn because I'm very intuitive with my diet. You can do intuitive dieting, it does work, but a lot of people don't have that intuition. They haven't had enough time to like build the skill. Same with you. If you didn't do food tracking in the past, you wouldn't be able to intuitive diet yourself.
No. And if I didn't get onto like an 80-day streak on MyFitnessPal at the minute, I wouldn't know half the things I need to consume to make sure that I'm still getting my protein, carbs, and fats, because there's still things you miss out as well. But yo-yo dieting is basically, as Nick said, based on feel. It's where you'll be like, I'm dieting, so you start choosing slightly healthier options. You start maybe subbing out, I don't know, you're having wholemeal bread instead of white bread and swapping that out as a suggestion, and then you're having like sandwiches instead of like the chicken nugget wrap or whatever you're making in the evening to try and make yourself feel better about yourself. But you'll do that for a short period of time, then you'll start to sneak in a little snack here and there, and then the yo-yo comes back, you go back the other way, your diet goes out the window, you're ordering 4 takeaways a week because you're too busy, and then you're feeling bad about yourself.
I would argue yo-yo dieting is what happens when you try and crash diet too quick. You think trying to lose weight as fast as possible is the way, and then you realize you get absolute mood swings and cravings for bad food. Before you know it, you binge on the weekend, and then you tell me that, I eat most of the time pretty good, but you don't show me the fact that you've had 4,000 calories on a Saturday even though you've only had 1,200 throughout the week. You're still going to maintain or even gain a bit of fat from doing that. Like, you can't, we're going to go on to obviously having cheat days in a second, but I think crash dieting is probably the next thing we should talk about.
Crash dieting is what a lot of people tend to look to when they're trying to lose weight really, really quickly. Really, really quickly. Like you're saying, somebody's got a wedding in 4 weeks and they want to lose a stone.
Yeah.
They'll crash diet. The problem is the number may come down on the scales, but it's not body fat. 75% of it probably isn't body fat. Now, that's just a number I've thrown out there, not an accurate reflection. But this is the problem that people tend to do. They'll lose the water weight. They'll feel leaner. Again, the big feel, leaner. But in actual measurements, in kind of progress photos, there is minimal change. If anything, they just look what we call dry. They have dried out a bit, but they're still holding on to the fat mass. Yeah. So it doesn't give the impression that we're looking for when people want a physique that they look to.
Yeah, and most people don't realise that you don't burn fat quickly. Fat has a certain amount of calories per pound per day that can actually be burnt. And then once you break past that point, it's not going to speed up the fat loss. It's going to start tapping into other areas such as muscle mass, glycogen in the muscle, etc. And so crash dieting always leads to problems with muscle mass loss. Appetite obviously goes through the roof. You feel like crap, low moods. Like, why would you want to feel like that? So if you are doing a crash diet, stop it, because otherwise I'm going to come slap you. The next most common diet I would say a lot of people would do is the low carb diet.
Yeah.
For some reason people have this fear that carbs are the enemy, but they're not.
But low carb also ties into stuff like carnivore diets, because carnivore diets are that low carb, ketogenic, similar things.
Yeah, but carnivore is more of like a trend over the last 5 years that's been talked about more.
We did speak about it actually in a previous pod.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say low. I think the thinking behind low carb and the thinking behind carnivore are totally different. Like, carnivore is almost like this brainwashing that we are carnivores and we should only eat meat.
Look, I got canines, it means I'm a carnivore.
Yeah.
But no, it's that balance that's lost between it. Again, it's similar to what we just said, crash diet and yo-yo diet. They all go hand in hand with something like a low carb then, because people think bread's the enemy. People think pasta's going to cause them to just completely discombobulate and turn into a balloon. And it's these things that they tend to think are the enemy rather than what the amount is that they're consuming. And similar to what you said there, one of the big messages that I send out to clients, to new clients for the expectations, is I normally say what doesn't get measured does not get managed. If you don't measure your calories, you do not know what you are eating. And again, for new people definitely coming in, not so much. But there's such a fear factor around carbohydrates, huge fear factor around carbohydrates, because people don't really understand how much water weight can fluctuate. And I can't remember the exact amount of water that you take in when you consume 1 gram of carbs. Is it what, 4 grams of water?
3 to 4. It depends on the study. But yeah, like your muscle cell, when you take in 1 gram of carbohydrate, it will also retain with it 3 to 4 grams of water. I'm not sure exactly how many grams it is, because it's like somewhere in the middle. But if let's say you had 500 grams of carbs in your muscles and then you burnt through it, you would lose about 2.5 kilos of weight. And then people think, oh, I had low carb, therefore it must be the drop in the carbs that's dropped my weight. But not realizing that if you're trying to aim for fat loss, your goal is to maintain as much water and glycogen in the muscle as possible when dieting, as opposed to trying to lose it, because you will feel like crap and you won't be able to keep your metabolism up as high as it could be.
No, and that's the thing, and a big impact there, and a big thing you just said there, it really does impact your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, when you are crash dieting. What you'll find is your body's a very clever mechanism. It will adjust to the fact that you have either dropped your calories really low. You normally with low carb, that does tend to happen because it goes hand in hand with people doing really low carb, low calorie diets too. And one of the big things we've always said, when you're looking at reducing body fat loss, that's what we're talking about. We want to come away from the number on the scales. When you're looking at fat loss, the thing that we want to lose, you realistically only need to be in a maximum of a 500 calorie deficit. Maximum.
I mean, you can go more, but like that's dependent on your weight. Like, for example, Mark, 220 kilo, he's on a 2,500 calories a day diet, but his TDE is 4,500. Like, that's 2,000 calorie a day. That's why he lost 11 kilos in 4 weeks. It's possible. But obviously, as he gets leaner, it's going to be less doable. But also, a good thing about carbs is, although they're not essential, as in you can survive without carbs, they do support testosterone production. So men, if you're looking for your testosterone to be as elevated as possible, carbs do help. And so it is important to have a look at that. I think with the carnivore diet, if we're going to go down that route, the reason why people get good results from carnivore is because normally they're eating a lot of shit food. Like, I'm talking a lot of processed food, a lot of sugars, lots of bad saturated, like, when I say bad, saturated fat's not necessarily bad, but a lot of saturated fat, a lot of trans fats. And then they go into this cleaner eating and they see results that are more positive because they've been eating like an absolute arsehole. So if you're someone that's looking at a diet, first of all, check, are you eating like an arsehole? And if you are, then maybe change that up first and be more considerate about that.
Well, there's one thing I said whilst doing the vegan challenge, which when this is being filmed, I'm still towards the back end of the vegan challenge. And I never wanted to do this diet to prove I could lose weight on it. Because I have already proven time and time again that I can lose weight on diet because it's calorie control, not the type of diet that I'm on, not the amount of activity I'm doing. It's how much I am eating during that period of time for a prolonged period of time. And with the vegan diet, again, people are like, oh, you're noticing any major differences? I'm like, not really, because my diet is pretty good anyway. Like, I've got a pretty balanced diet. But I've said to people, I said, look, if I ate some horrendous diet, I'm talking, as you say, like sugary treats a lot of the time, a lot of high GI stuff where it's just constantly not filling me up, making me feel feeling full, and it would have more of a drastic impact. And then I'd be like, oh my God, the vegan diet's done this to me. I'm like, no, because you just started eating more veggies and having fiber.
I mean, let's talk about the vegan diet. I mean, look, at the end of the day, man, like,
apologies for interrupting the podcast. We know you're getting fully engrossed into this episode, and we really appreciate you stopping on the video on YouTube or on Spotify if you found us through one of the search pages. Make sure to leave a review and a subscription if you haven't already. But we just wanted to interject a point here that me and Nick have 15 years of coaching experience between us, and it's only getting better as we've got better guests on the podcast. The only way we can do that, though, is with the growth of our program that we've just released. We've got a 12-month PerformWell program, which has just dropped, and we'd love you guys to get involved in it. If you want to learn more details, make sure to head to the description, as we've got our website in there, which can give you a full overlay of the program. We're looking to help career-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and anyone dominate their life by improving their lifestyle. Me and Nick like to claim ourselves as experts in this area, and if you want to check out some of our other transformations, I'm sure you do. We've got some amazing people who have performed so well off the back of this program. Have a cracking day, and we really appreciate your time. Let's get back to the podcast.
I've had this conversation with people before, and like, no one wants to see an animal get killed. Like, I'll put my hands up. If I saw it happen, I wouldn't want to eat that meat. And I think it's the idea that you don't see it happen that I'm okay with eating meat. That being said, the nutrient absorption when it comes to vegan diets is nowhere near on the same level as animal proteins and animal nutrients. For example, one good example is beta carotene. Vitamin A, we use the retinol form in our bodies. That's the one that we can actually use and utilize. Beta carotene cannot be utilized in the body. It has to be digested, broken down, and then turned into retinol. The body doesn't digest and break it down to retinol at a very efficient rate. I think I read somewhere about it being about like 8% of beta carotene gets turned into vitamin A. And the reason why I researched this is because I used to get a lot of acne, and vitamin A has been proven to help, or at least the retinol form. And I used to think, well, I was getting this amount of IU of vitamin A, and it wasn't resulting in my acne clearing up. And it was because it was from beta carotene. I had to resort to going to fish oil because, cod liver fish oil is high in vitamin A retinol. And then I saw my acne start to improve. So it is important to recognize that vegan diets are limited in some way to the absorption of the food itself. And the problem with the vegan diet I found when I did it myself is that you had to add a lot of things in order for the vegan diet to actually work, which for me just didn't make sense in terms of like sustainability. And like, if I was somewhere in the world and for some reason I just couldn't find the nutrients I wanted to, I could just resort to meat and it would be easier.
There's a lot of hole plugging, I will say, from what my own experience of the vegan diet. Like, the one thing that I personally struggled with is I have felt quite lightheaded. And normally lightheadedness is associated with low iron.
You said anemic.
Not anemic, but I felt more lightheaded than I usually do. My runs have been fine, but like from day to day, like I stand up out of this, I would feel more lightheaded than I usually would. And then I started taking some of Elle's iron tablets. Not that I told her this, but I started taking some of Elle's iron tablets to supplement them in. I felt fine.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the only thing that changed. I started taking the iron tablets. The diet has been pretty consistent over the other period of time, but then my iron levels are lower.
Well, I mean, for those that don't know, like lower iron leads to low hemoglobin in the blood, and hemoglobin is what carries oxygen into your cells. So less oxygen in your cells don't function properly, and then obviously your body's more taxed, and that can lead to these feelings. And I don't know if you've had for example, the anemic feeling for me was basically this kind of fatigue that it felt like it was coming from my chest. Like, my heart I didn't feel like I was pumping enough, and it felt like I didn't pump enough energy around my body. I was just feeling depleted, and food seemed to help to some degree, but same thing, as soon as I took iron supplements, it helped a lot.
Yeah, it does, and it just solves that little thing. But this is the thing with like carnivore, this is the thing with vegan, this is the thing with keto. Yeah. You're probably going to be plugging holes with supplements anyway, because you're going to be deficient in those areas, which kind of almost defeats the point of why the diet exists in the first place. That if you're using supplements to plug the holes, it's why supplement companies exist to this day. Is because of diets like this, where people are like, I'm not getting this, so then you have to take like a multivit or like a vegan omega or whatever you need to take for it, because these things are normally lacking. I think it was DHA4 is another thing that's normally missing on vegan diets, and unless you're taking vegan omegas or some algae based.
I know B12 is the big one.
B12 is a huge one. I supplement B12 anyway, even when I'm on a normal diet, because the nation is deficient in B12. So many of us who feel fatigued throughout the day, you just need some B12 in your diet. And how do we get B12? Spinach, leafy vegetables, getting it through. You can get through oily fish as well, I think, as well. Some B12.
Not entirely sure.
Depends on the solubility of it. But we are just deficient in it as a nation. We're deficient in it worldwide because people don't eat enough greens. Your mum told you to eat your greens. Yeah. Eat your peas, Pedro. Come on.
I don't want to like complicate it too much, but just on the topic of vitamins and minerals, just remember that there are different types of B12. There are different types of vitamin A. There are different types of vitamin C, vitamin D, for example. It's important that if you are looking down the route of vitamins and minerals, that you're looking for bioavailable sources. You can do a quick Google search, ChatGPT search. It will tell you good sources of bioavailable forms. Don't just take a vitamin from a shop, it costs 99p, and think that's going to fix it, because it won't. But yeah, just do a little bit more research on it.
But a lot of the vitamins that people buy when they go to places like Holland and Barrett are just bogus.
Apparently they're quite toxic on the body to some degree. And when I say that, I mean that with a little bit of nuance, yeah, because toxic is a very harsh word. You can say a lot of things are toxic, really, but apparently the body doesn't do well to like break it down and use it, and it can stress systems in the body. And I think the liver that primarily breaks down most vitamins like that. Yeah, so I don't quite know on that, but there are organs in the body that work harder to break down things like that are pharmaceutically made compared to getting it through your body at a normal rate of digestion.
Which is why some people, when they turn around and be like, I've been having these vitamin supplements and they haven't been doing anything. Again, you spoke about solubility there, which is an important thing to factor in on any of these diets. Now, I want to kind of bridge the gap onto some dieting strategies that have been used. We talk about different types of diets that people tend to go on. Reverse dieting has been coming about for a while. A lot of kind of high performance coaches use reverse dieting to get quick results. Now, reverse dieting, for people that don't know out there, it's when you drastically reduce your calories down to lose a lot of weight and fat quickly, and then build your calories back up the opposite direction. So say someone's maintenance is 2,000 calories, you'll drop down to 1,000 to drop the body fat and see a quick result, and then build your calories back up to reboot your metabolism. But again, it comes into the conversation that the same person could get the same result by simply just reducing their calories down by about 250 calorie deficit. They'd lose the body fat just over a slightly longer time frame.
Most people should refeed anyway, because let's say you cut down by 500 a day deficit. So let's go from say 2,500 down to 2,000. Your body weight over 8 to 12 weeks will decrease, meaning your maintenance is now lower. Therefore, you wouldn't just go back up to 2,500, because you could then potentially start gaining weight and fat again. So having a ladder up system is always a good, smart, objective way of doing it, because your maintenance will change based on your calories. And also your metabolism, even though it's adaptive and it will go back up to normal once you start eating more, it doesn't happen immediately. It takes some time to adjust.
Yeah, it does. It is a slow process as well, because again, a lot of people out there sit there and go, my metabolism's broken. That's hence why a lot of people also go onto these diets like keto, carnivore, vegan, because they think that they're the solutions to their metabolism and fixing their metabolism. Your metabolism's not broken. You're just not tracking things properly, Becky. You know, you're just not on it. You are not tracking the food correctly. To lose fats, you have to be in a calorie deficit. Some people, that does mean you need to be on 1,300 calories. Sometimes that means you need to be on 1,000 calories.
I think I read somewhere that the brain requires around about 1,200 a day to function. That might be different for different sizes of people, I'm sure, but
different sized brains.
Yeah, generally, if you're below 1,200, I don't see how your life is that good. Unless you're like freakishly small and like that's just how many calories you burn. But then even like I've even read up about dwarfs burning ridiculous amount of calories every day. Like just because they're small doesn't mean that they burn any less than we do.
They're freakishly metabolically active.
But it's two different ways. You just said about metabolism. That people can be metabolically efficient and metabolically inefficient as well. So like I've got a client at the minute who we've tested this recently for her because her weight just hasn't come down. She's training for a triathlon at the minute. She's been working so hard and she's training doing cardio like 4 times a week and also doing gym twice a week. So she's training 6 times a week at the minute, which is amazing. But she hasn't seen her weight drop. And she's been in a 500 calorie deficit for a while.
Adapted, mate.
But this is what I've thought for a while. She might be fat adapted and also inaccuracies in tracking.
Yeah.
Now, she's gotten strict with her tracking over the last week and we lowered her down into a slightly deeper deficit. Weight starts to come down.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, for sure. But like, obviously, if we're looking at those that are definitely tracking properly, like let's just say that you, without a doubt, you're tracking properly. Metabolic flexibility is where you might be struggling with the most. And when I talk about fat adapted, some people do struggle, different body types do struggle with processing carbs, especially sugars, more so than like, say, my body type. You know, I'm very fortunate that I can process carbs very effectively. Whereas what happens with an endomorph will do it, they will find as soon as they drop their calories, their energy just plummets because their body isn't processing fats and adapting and using it properly because their body's not efficient at processing it. Low carb diets can help become more fat adapted, meaning you burn fat more efficiently and therefore your energy is higher up as you deficit. This is why sometimes keto diet has got a lot of praise because people do feel good after 2-3 weeks of doing it. Not necessarily everyone, but most people generally feel a better sense of being when they're doing lower carb diets.
Yeah.
But only after that first initial period.
You got to do it properly though as well.
But what I always say, it's a scale system with carbs, is I always look, if you're someone that's struggling to lose weight and your calories are low, is first of all, look at the source of carbs. Is there a lot of sugars and processed carbs in there? The first step is to reduce that and go for more slow releasing carbs, because that will also start improving metabolic flexibility. You'll burn through carbs more effectively and also fat, because when you lower sugars and you focus more on slow releasing, your body now has to tap into fat to fill up the gap, and that will make you more fat adapted just by that alone. You don't have to reduce carbs completely to become fat adapted.
No, it's something as well, like if you are, that we're talking to the runners out there and the people who are doing like longer distance stuff, fat adaptation you can get from doing your longer endurance stuff.
And intermittent fasting as well.
And intermittent fasting, because you teach your body to use it. That's not saying intermittent fasting is a better tool for fat loss. That's saying that you can become specifically fat adapted as an energy source, which helps fuel your performance, not fat loss.
That being said, intermittent fasting, I've talked about this before, even though I don't practice it at the moment, it does have its place for a lot of people. It does, because not only does it teach you to deal with hunger, which is very effective for when you're dieting, because you're going to be hungry when you diet. Like, that's just the way it is. You're going to have some level of hunger. It can teach you how to deal with hunger more effectively. Your ghrelin production is downregulated at certain times of the day, meaning you don't feel cravings in the morning, meaning you can go for longer without less calories. You can then have more calories at nighttime with your friends and family. You can now have big meals and it makes you feel satisfied and full. You become more fat adapted because of it. Yes, the autophagy side of things is claimed to improve like breakdown of bad proteins in the body. However, that happens when you're dieting anyway. But generally it can help with managing your hunger levels and allowing you to have bigger meals in the evening, which is where most people want them.
Yeah, and it does, as you say, it does have its place. It's just when people preach it as the kind of one and only solution.
Because it works for them.
Yeah, because it works for them. People get a result in it. It's the Hail Mary of like, this is how we get the result that we get down to. But realistically, some of the people out there who don't preach it and do the diets correctly are the people that are normally, who can live that consistent lifestyle.
It's an interesting diet because apparently, like, it's more effective for men than women. Women apparently have a higher cortisol spike, which intermittent fasting can. What's the right way to describe this? I mean, if I've done my research on it, and it's basically they recommend men can go up to 16 hours fasting and 8 hours of eating, but for women it's 14 hours and 10 hours of eating, and it's to do something regarding a woman's cortisol spike being higher up than a man's.
What, in the morning?
When they're fasting. I haven't done my research on this for a long time. This is obviously, previous experience, but it's interesting.
Does that mean ladies are more stressy in the mornings than blokes are?
I mean, I don't want to say that, but I don't want to say that, but I guess it depends. I mean, I would argue it also depends on the time of the month, because I'm guessing if you gave a 30-day intermittent fasting trial to a man and a woman, and then the woman went through the cycle, then the cycle every 2 weeks is going to have a different result.
Yeah.
And maybe that would result in this diet not being as effective.
Yeah, and also it'd have that influence from, as you say, the hormones within the cycle.
But that's a guess. That's a theory. That's a theory.
That's a theory. But it's interesting to kind of bring these points up. But let us know as well if you've tried any of these diets, what kind of, experiences you've had. We'd love to share them with you guys as well. And we appreciate you guys stopping, watching, liking and subscribing. Make sure to leave a review. And again, you guys are helping us grow this podcast. We can only be thankful for the audience that we're building with this. It's been amazing. We had some great opportunities, some great guests, and we're going to keep them coming if you guys keep supporting. So we will catch you guys.
Just before we ramp up, we need to get wait 1 sec. We need to get some things on here, buddy.
Ta-da! Oh yes, the wheel. Yes.
So for those of you that don't know what this is the question wheel. So you ask questions and we answer them in the podcast live if we land on it. That is what this bad boy is all about.
Yeah. So if you've got any questions that you want answering, this can be absolutely anything, by the way. If you've seen a couple of examples from previous podcasts, we'll put this on our socials too to get your questions in, and we'll stick these on. And if we've got guests on as well and they're really good questions, we're going to leave them on here until they're answered. So yeah, make sure to send them in. Lovely. Chance, guys. Bye.